Now I have my plushie cat all stuffed. This did take quite a bit of time and stuffing to fill it. Again, just as a tip, you can use more than just polyfill. I used polyfill in combination with some scraps of foam and fabric scraps that I just had in my classroom that I cut up into smaller pieces and used that to fill a lot of it. And then I went back and put in polyfill to do more of the shaping and get rid of any lumps and things like that in it. So take your time getting all the filling, the whole parts of your project, and then we're ready to sew the opening closed. So the guide sheet tells us to slip stitch, which will be hand sewing, not the machine here, and the goal is to hide your stitches. I did the bonus tip of stay stitching to stabilize my fabric here, and so my goal will be that that will be hidden as I sew it. Okay, it's difficult to pin this, so you'll probably see me in the video almost squishing it against myself as I sew to help those edges come together. So I'll need a hand needle for this. Choose a thread that coordinates with your fabric, so if some of the stitches do end up being visible, it won't be really obvious. So I'm using a black thread, and then when you're hand sewing, as a good rule to have a good amount of thread in your needle, I like to remember from my fingertips to my elbow as a length. That will give you enough that it shouldn't run out really quickly, but it's also not so long that it's getting looped or hard to work with. And then I chose to use a double thread just to make sure that this is extra strong. So it's really just one strand of thread folded back on itself, and then it's tied together at the end so it doesn't come through. So now I'm ready to start my stitch. To hide that knot that's on the end, I'm going to start by bringing my needle in from the wrong side of my fabric. And so you can see my needle's coming out right here. And then I'll pull that all the way through, and then my knot is hidden inside. It is important for every stitch that you pull it tight. And again, my goal is that I'm going to be hiding the thread as I go. For me, I'm right-handed, so it actually feels more natural to have the needle going to the right. So I'm actually going to turn my plushie here. And then I'm going to be hiding my thread in the folds of the fabric that I have here. I'll zoom in so you can see a little better. So I'm taking the needle and I'm running it through the folds. So you can see that's folded fabric. I'm doing it above my stay stitching. I guess it's below my stay stitching, to just beyond it so that then that gets pulled in, and then I can pull that tight. And then if I go to the other side, and then I'm slipping it through right here. That's kind of where that word slip stitch is coming from in our guide sheet. And then it's going to start looking like rungs on a ladder. So this is similar to also how you would make what's called a ladder stitch or an invisible stitch. And then as I pull it tight, you can see it's bringing those together, and then the thread is hidden. So I'll keep doing that all the way across my plushie, again taking time to stitch neatly and also securely. And about how big is each stitch? I'd say that's about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch maximum, so it shouldn't be bigger than 1/4 inch spacing as you stitch this. Now I've finished stitching up my opening, so it's time to tie this off to finish my stitching. So I need to tie a knot here where I finished. So I'm going to take a little stitch, and I'm trying to do it right here close to the seam line where I've been stitching. And then I take a little stitch with my needle, and then I don't pull this all the way through the fabric because you see I have this loop of thread. Then I take my needle and I put the needle through the loop and I pull it tight, and that makes a knot. I like to do this 2 times just to make sure it's secure. Again, I have my loop, put the needle through the loop. And then you can see the knot just a little bit. It's not very visible with the thread color, but we can try to hide that by taking the needle and putting it close to the knot and then just down into the seam line. So basically right between where I've been stitching those 2 pieces of fabric together. And then I'm gonna push the needle there, and then I'm just gonna make the point come out a couple inches away from where I was stitching. So just anywhere in the main body of my plushie. And then I can pull that out, and then that should kind of tuck the knot down in there a little bit more. And then you can just cut that, careful not to cut the fabric. And then if there was a little tail, if I just mushed it a little bit, the tail would just disappear inside. I hope you had fun making your plushie pet and you gained some confidence in your sewing skills with all these new techniques you tried, like sewing darts, sewing curved seams, and doing the slip stitch on the bottom. This is a super fun, cuddly project. I'm a teacher. I'm going to keep mine in my classroom as an example, and then maybe use it when I'm tired and need a nap during my preparation period. Thanks for watching, and keep sewing with the guided stitch.